Welcome, thanks for coming. My name is Giovanni. I'm a lecturer at the School of Engineering and Informatics in the Department of Product Design. And some students here. And we're going to do some 2D artwork using very simple computational methods. So I printed out some samples. Maybe something like this. I was using the university logo to play with, but the idea is that maybe you will try something. I mean, you can play with the university logo as well. Maybe you can try something else, like your initials or your name or something else. So, more or less the plan, just a quick intro. We'll talk about what is computational design, generative design, a little bit of background. We'll take a look at some examples. We'll take a quick look at some of the tools. Hopefully that won't take long, maybe let's try to keep it to maybe 25 minutes, and then we'll move on so that you guys start working on creating some artwork.
Is it 2D?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Kitty was just telling me that there is a chance someone would not be able to log into the computers. Are you all from Sussex? Yeah? All right, good. So then you can log into the computer. So very quick intro. I'm obviously interested in the subject. I've done this workshop a number of times in 3D, because first I did it with an organization that provides making services, so basically 3D printing services, and so it was just to show that. Then we did it here with the Creative Technology Research Group. I am a product designer by profession, industrial designer, and so I've been interested in computational design and generative design for a while. A big chunk of my career was in designing mobile phones, and so I went from 2006 when we were designing this kind of candy bar mobile phones, and then we were designing flip phones, which I'm assuming you've seen. Then we were designing slider phones. Then we started to design the first range of the first type of smartphones, like like BlackBerry type of phones. And the thing is that eventually we ended up designing, the kind of like the last generation of smartphones. So as time went by, but particularly with the arrival of the smartphone, the type of design work that we as industrial designers were concerned with got reduced to the sides and to the back, because most of the front screens became larger and larger and larger. So there wasn't really that much industrial design to do. With time, the thickness of the phone became a concern as well, so also that space became reduced. At the time we were designing these, we still had some space to make some textures and stuff like that. But as time went on, more and more, most of the work we were doing with design was on the back of the phone. And so there was this trend at the same time I've been observing in putting textures, not just on the back, but when only the back was the only space that we had to play with, mostly, then it became very important, the different type of textures that you could put there. And there was this design trend evolving with with the time. I guess some of you recall these. You probably don't. This was one of the first products, one of the first computers, let's say electronic products, that have a texture. In this case, it's also the vents, but which were not in a regular pattern. They were like this array, if you will. And with textures, it was the same. You know, this probably goes back to 2005. But you could see that there was an effort to have textures, but in no particular arrangement. And so by the time we were designing this type of smartphones, a lot of time and effort was spent on designing those kinds of textures that were not regular patterns. And oftentimes, senior management would come and would say, maybe the triangles should be a bit bigger, and a whole week of work or 3 days of work would have to be spent again because we were doing this one by one. We were literally 3D modeling these one by one. So I started to wonder, well, I mean, is this really how this is done? And that's how I made contact with generative design. A few more examples, same trend, but in cars. You know, very regular patterns, kind of like regular patterns. And then you see that there is this trend to have patterns which are not perfectly arrayed, you know, the traditional type of pattern. And they have very strong appeal. I mean, there is a whole science, if you will, behind of why as human beings we are attracted to those kind of forms, to those kind of patterns, which are they feel more organic, they feel more natural. So anyways, I discovered generative design. So there is an approach to arrive to those kind of shapes without having to model triangle by triangle. I'm talking about triangles, but it can be any shape. If it's, you know, there is a different approach to doing this than, you know, just placing each hole one by one, but using the power of the computer, using the power of computation to arrange that automatically. So that's how I got into computational design. So what is computational or generative design? Basically the automatic generation of forms, geometries, objects. They can be in 2D, which is kind of like what we're going to do today. They can be in 3D, automatically. So you have an algorithm that generates forms, and then that's it. You evaluate them afterwards. Basic form or pattern, which is automatically modified or created by an algorithm. The result, an infinite random modifications of the starting solution or the starting form. Right. All right. Different terms, same idea. If you're really going into detail, you know, something like evolutionary design, there is a fitness function introduced where the computer generates a population, then the population gets crossbred, thus the name evolutionary, and then the result of crossbreeding, the initial population gets evaluated, and the best subjects get crossbred again and so forth. But in general, we're talking about the idea of generating forms automatically. So how is this different from the traditional approach to design? In the traditional approach to design, you have an idea. Obviously, you've done some research, hopefully before. You have an idea, and then you sit in front of a piece of paper, and then you start translating your idea on paper or in clay if you're using a different medium. But basically, your idea in the head you put on paper or on a model, and then you take this and then you execute it. So you go from having the idea to crafting, and there is an output, and then if you like it or not, then you make some adjustments, and then you go back. But basically, that's a traditional approach. The difference in following a generative or a computational design approach is that you have a rough idea, which then you put in the computer in an algorithm, and then the algorithm generates an output. So it's more akin like to a black box process, where there is an input, you play with some parameters, and then the computer is going to give you an output. So here you know what you're crafting. Here you have a very rough idea of what you're crafting. The computer crafts something, and then you see what's the output. So it may be that you don't like it. I mean, here you could say, well, I mean, it's your idea. How couldn't you like it? You can make some adjustments, but here you have much less of an idea of what you're going to get in the end. So this process, in a way, puts you more of in the role of a curator of what the computer is generating. A typical example of, and a very simple example of what we're talking about is the array or pattern tool that you find in most CAD systems. So I took the US logo, we're using it for another lesson, for another module. And so, pretty simple idea. So you have an item, then you tell the computer, well, I need to make a linear pattern. Then you say, well, I need this many items in this axis, or in 2 axes, or in 3 axes, and then the computer makes it for you. Most, even the cheapest CAD software will have at least a linear pattern or a circular pattern. Same thing, you have your item, I want to make a circular pattern around this axis. Same thing, what's the angle, what's the number of items, then the computer does it. Now the thing is that in this case, you know what you're going to get. It's a linear pattern or it's a polar pattern, you know what's going to be the outcome. But using the same principle, but combining different algorithms, you can get to far more complex things, like something like that. In which the outcome might actually surprise you, or might be something that maybe you didn't even think about. And then you can take it, and then you can tweak it, and play, and adjust it, and whatever. All right, so some ideas. Again, it puts the designer in a different role. It highlights the importance of the tool. And then you have to develop a certain sense for how to combine the different processes so that you get the outcome that you're going to want. So instead of designing specific features of the form that you want to create, you think of, if I pass this through this process first and through that process later, and then I pass it through the first process again, I'm going to get this output. That should give me something that looks interesting. All right. So very quickly, the idea of using computers in design, it actually comes from the art, and it's quite old. This is 1968, I think. Yeah, 1968. It's regarded as one of the first artworks created using a computer algorithm. So the array, the arrangement of the tiles was determined by a computer. that same idea has been developed. Artists are always at the forefront on this type of things. Though the first two paintings are made by a computer that actually has a physical interface, a hardware interface, and you scan some things. The computer is supposed to get inspiration from those things, and then it actually paints in physical something. This one is much latest. It's called the Paintful system. It's kind of like the same idea. In sculpture, you might have seen some of these, saying you have a certain form, and then the computer, the algorithm, creates these forms, in this case in 3D, so pretty interesting. Well, you may disagree, but sculptures. Right, in design and architecture, this, you probably identify this. This is the Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing, made for the 2008 Olympics. Actually, Frank Gehry created a whole new business unit because he had to use a very high-end software that's used in the aerospace industry to create this shape. So much work went into it that in the end he was commercializing, or they were commercializing the software. Anyways, interior design, graphic design, and media design are particularly suitable because they don't have many constraints. I mean, if you can print it, that's really it. Furniture, you have one section. Let the computer create the rest. Obviously, you can criticize it in terms of ergonomics or manufacturing, but the shape it creates, it's quite interesting. And then product design. There's an interesting story here. Under Armour, well, Adidas had done something very similar, literally a couple of months earlier. So they're experimenting with the same thing. Our thing is these kind of forms, in 3D at least, they cannot be easily manufactured. They have to be 3D printed because there is no way you can get that out of a mold. So obviously it's very expensive because actually I put it here, right? So it takes about less than 24 hours, right? Using traditional molding manufacturing methods, you can do 2,400. In 8 hours, so that's a huge difference. Anyway, so that's really what we're talking about: computational design or generative design. Right. So there's different tools. Some of the simplest are scripts, already made scripts. You can make your own as well. Usually, these scripts interface with CAD software, with the design software. In this case, we're going to use the scripts for Illustrator for our exercise. So they usually go through what is it called, APPI, Application Programming Interface, and they basically add to an existing software. There's what's called visual programming languages, where you will have probably an image will be better. Let's imagine that each of these does something different. Let's say that this makes squares, this makes circles, and this mix them together, and this one makes triangles. And so you can arrange them and connect one with the other, and connect them in different ways, and then obviously the outcome changes once you mix them. That's basically visual programming languages. You have these kind of like engines, items, and then you can connect one to the other, but on a visual interface. Then code base, you can basically code stuff. You can code a program that generates forms. There's some very specific plugins for CAD packages, like for Inventor, that have that generate geometry. And then there's some software that have a graphic user interface. What we'll be using today is scripts. A script is simply a file that again has a set of commands. that can be executed by an existing software. So in this case, we're going to use Illustrator. And there is a wide variety of scripts available that do different things. And you can create your own if you want. All right, so I did some examples, the ones I showed you on the printouts. And again, I was playing with the university logo. So maybe we can try to do something simple, maybe like this, with the university logo. Maybe we can try to do it together, and afterwards you can try doing something, with, if you want something with maybe your name or with something that you want, we can try doing that. What we'll need is Illustrator that's installed in the computers. It should work in this room. And then we'll be using some scripts that I already collected for you. So if you go to this URL, and you should access a zip file. Download it to your desktop. Don't try to open it. Download the file to your, it's a zip file, download the file to your desktop, and then we'll use those scripts to play with and create our artwork. If you haven't opened Illustrator, I think it should be under Adobe. I think it's Adobe Creative Cloud. Yes. Yeah. So yes, move it to the desktop and unzip it. Before I forget, any questions? No? It'd be great if you can send me your finished artwork. That's my email. So yeah, it'd just be good to have a record of the outcome of the session. All right. So let's start by making a new file. So if you hit Control N, Illustrator should open the new document dialog box. And then I'm not sure if you will be able to see these, but if you don't, then you just go to Print. And then you should find that, I was just working on the printouts. I was working in tablet size, A3. A3, I think, is the one you use here.
Yeah.
So, just select A3. Make sure the orientation is landscape, and I like to work in millimeters, but just all right. If you need to pan, you hold down the space bar, and then you move the mouse, and then you'll be able to pan. So okay, so we have space inside the same folder.
No, so you just lost me completely.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. Yes, Control N, and then Print, and then A3, and then. If you go to inside the folder where the folder that you downloaded, inside the folder the university logo should be there. A file with the university logo, it's there, right? So you just hit Control O, and then in my case it's here. Then this file US logo 01 should be there, right? Well, actually, we can play with this one. Right, so that's done.
Oh, can I get the URL again? Please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't been able to download it at all. That one is
Oh, maybe, yeah, it's kind of confusing. Maybe this. Yes. So download, yeah, it's download. Oh, you're having the same.
You don't want to. Oh,
Not use
you
Chrome
don't want to.
rather than Edge.
Yeah, that's use Chrome.
Yes. Jay was having the same problem. I'll tell you what.
Do you have stick?
Yeah, I have. I'll just give you the file.
Close that browser.
No, I haven't.
Oh, would that be a lot?
Yes, it's that Edge browser that's downloading new. It doesn't download anything.
Was that solved?
Use, if you use Chrome, it downloads it.
Yeah.
But I haven't got Chrome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Chrome should be on all of
It
them.
should be on there.
Yeah, just keep scrolling down and yeah, that is.
Should be good. So did it work?
If you use Chrome, it'll work.
I don't have a problem using Firefox, but some people do. Anyways, I have them here if you have the problem. All right, so we go to Illustrator. You will have your logo there. Yeah. So to apply, so then again, basically what we're going to do is we're just going to apply changes, and then just some of the scripts will give us the option to tweak the changes. So you just select. You need to select the geometry that you want to apply the changes to, right? So in this case, select the logo, and let's start playing with it. So if you hit Control F12, that's the hotkey to open the script. Then you go to the desktop. Eventually, the link is going to appear here on the left, but we need to do it a couple of times. So scripts, and then. There might be one called All Points. We don't want to use that one now. But if you select Arc Twister and then select Arc Twister again, you should see that dialog box. Okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. So you select the logo,
I can't
right?
select it. I just, yeah.
Uh-huh.
You need to, also, you're going to click on the arrow, yeah,
Right, okay.
and that's basically just selecting.
Oh, you're
And the
inside.
two arrows make different things, so your black arrow is to the
Oh.
right.
Yes, sorry. I mean, I might have assumed. Right. So if this is the select tool. This little arrow there. If you double click on the thing, it will take you like into layers inside the shape. So you just click back here. What you want to see is that kind of box. That means the geometry is selected. So, okay, Control F12, and then we said Arc Twister, and then it will give you these options, right? So, right. Something I forgot is that I'm going to. You can undo, but to start having references for you to play with, I'm going to make a copy of the logo first. So you might want to undo if you made changes already. So what I'll do is I'm going to select, hit and then move it. Then I'm going to hold down the Shift and Alt keys, And you'll see that when I hit the Alt key, a second arrow appears behind the black one. Yeah, and so that's going to allow me to make a copy. I mean, you might as well just Control V, Control and Control what? Control C, Control V. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So let's play with it. So let's select the, now you see that I got the link here. So arc twister, and then if I apply some changes here, what this script does is that it bends inwards or outwards.
I don't have art in this folder.
Which folder?
You open this.
Oh no, because it will appear once here are the recently or commonly used. So you're gonna have to do it maybe 3 times. Oh, try again. But this one needs to be selected before you apply the. All right. So okay, whatever, you may like that or not. I'm going to make another copy and play with something else. Oh, this is a good one. So circle filler. Now you need to know now, because I've done this before. I know which are the best values for this. So maximum size 20. If you use maximum size 20 and minimum size 1, it's gonna give you an okay result. Color doesn't really matter because we can change it. So I'm going to select something very contrasting like yellow, and I'm gonna hit OK. This one takes a while to work. Ooh, that's looking interesting.
So you have to circle it, right?
Circle
So
fill,
then
yeah.
Control F12.
Yeah. Although those circles are probably a bit big. So if you select, because it asks you what's the biggest size that you want and what's the smallest one. So because I've done it before, I know that 20 and 1 work well.
Okay.
But you need to play with it.
Alright.
If it was a different shape, it would be different. So I'm going to move this out, right? And so now I have an interesting shape made out of circles that I can play with. So for instance, I could take this, make a copy, and then I could go back and apply the first one. That's why I was saying
What did you say the first one was?
arc twister.
No, the circle one.
Oh, arc circle fill.
Yeah, how many possible numbers?
Oh, 20 for the maximum and 1 for the minimum.
Oh, one instead of one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So kind of like a starry type of shape. Yeah. That's okay. So let's see what else we have. I'll take this again. Back to. Okay, let's do this. This is another good one. Fractalize, as the name implies, it creates several copies of it. So I'll take this, and then it asks me how much do I want to shrink the copies as far as the scale from the original one. So I'll leave that to 50. Offset, actually don't remember what that is. And then 10 points. Opacity drop, it means it may seem like it's going to be 80% opacity. Really, it's going to be 20% less than the original, or 20% transparency if you want to see it that way. It's going to add a 20% transparency to the copies. I'll just leave it as it is and then see what it does. Make sure to say no, because we just want one iteration. And I don't really like that. So
Oh, we work on this.
let me zoom out. What I'll do is I'll move my logo here and then try again. So fractalize. I think this is, let's add something like 5 there. Okay. Right. I could come in now and then selecting this and then placing it there, or making a copy and placing it there. Anyways, not so sure I like that, but at the moment it's just exploring. So try that. Let's see what other options we have. Okay, this one is quite versatile. Random swatches. So let's see if these are grouped. Okay, I'll make a copy of this. And then here I have my swatches, my colors. If you select the group of items that you want to work with, then you can click on different swatches. If you hold down the control key, it will allow you to make a multiple selection. So I'm just going to select some colors, not really thinking if they are a good combination or not.
Is the control key on
The
PC
control,
the Mac?
the control key as you click on the different swatches.
Okay.
You hold down the control key, and so you first select the object, the group of objects, and then you select the different swatches. So go here to my scripts again, and that's random swatches, and voila. Let me do it again. If you want to make a copy of if you want to make a copy of this, let me do it again. I'll select the logo.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to select different swatches here.
Okay.
So I hold down the control key
Okay.
and I select different swatches. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then once I have them selected, I hit Control F12
Okay.
and then come to random swatches, and then it will assign a color to each of the circles. I could then, let's say that I wanted to make some further changes to this. Let me make a copy of this one. I could come and apply a random resize. And then it's asking me for the minimum value. So in this case, I'll make, I want the variation of, let's say minimum to make them half the size they are. So 50%. And maximum 150% of the size they have. Right? And you can see that some of the circles have gotten bigger, some have gotten smaller. Do you want me to do it again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Randomize it. Oh, random size.
Random resize, yeah. So let me make a copy. So I select it. Then I open random resize.
Yeah.
And then it's asking me for the minimum size. So I don't want it to be 0. So I want the minimum size to, it's going to be random, but I want the minimum size to be half of the original, so 50%. And then the maximum size, when I hit OK, the maximum size, I want it to be not twice as big as the original, but 100. Or you can select whatever you want. I mean, you can select 200 if you want it to be twice as big. I'll select 150, right? And I mean, I'm kind of like far, but you can see the difference between the two, right? Right. Let's try a different thing. Let's select the original logo, and I'm going to make, if you hold down the shift key, it moves either vertically or horizontally. So I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to make a copy there, and then I'm going to make, well, to keep it the same distance. Okay, let me do it again. I'm going to make a copy of this one.
How do you do that bit again? Shift what?
So I selected and I drag. If I hold down shift, it restricts the movement to the horizontal. And then we know that if we hold down Alt, it will make a copy.
Right, Alt. Okay, great.
Right? And then if I hit Control D, it's going to repeat the last operation. So I can make kind of like a pattern.
If I just press Alt and drag, it copies it as well.
All right.
Yeah. Mm. So now that I have a little row, I'll take this. Actually, I think I needed more. I'll just make another one. All right, so now I select the entire row. I do the same thing, but down, right? And then I hit Control D again, and then it's going to give me a nice little pattern of university logos. So I just made that. Pattern. These would be useful for a script like this one, which is actually quite versatile. Randomizer. So let's click that, and it gives you a big dialog box.
What?
So it allows you to change scale in both axes. Do you want me to do it again?
No, let me see why you've got shapes and I've just got squiggles.
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah.
Let's do it again. So I have my logo.
Yeah, I did that.
So copy,
So you literally control.
several.
How do you get?
How did you do that? Copying.
Let's do it again. So, okay, select here. You make the first one. So Shift and Alt,
Oh,
right? And then you hit Control D, and that's going to repeat the last operation. Yeah. So I'm going to do the same thing with the row. Right. Up to here we're fine. Yeah? Yeah? All right. So I'm going to select the whole thing and then go to my scripts again, and this time you go to randomizer. And you should see this big dialog box over there. Okay, so again, it allows you to change the scale in both axes, X and A, change the opacity, and then move the shapes and even rotate them. So let's play with this one, right? Minimum change in scale, I'm going to say same thing, 50, and maximum 150. And I will say I want to have a uniform scale because I don't want the logo to change proportion. Yeah? So I'm not going to touch Y. I'm just gonna select uniform scale. Then opacity, same thing. I want some of them to be 50% and maximum 100 because I don't want any of them to be. I don't want all of them to be somehow transparent. I want some of them to be transparent, but at least some to be completely opaque. And then changes in X. Let's use something like -25 to 25. And then same thing, or maybe 20 in y and minus 20 and 20 in y. Let's not rotate them this time. So that means they will all stay like this, right? So copy those values. Okay, you have the values here. 50, 150, 100, 100, 50, 100. Well, actually, you can try something else. So let's see. All right. Not a very big change.
That's quite low.
Right.
Mine changed more.
Not that pronounced.
More than yours.
Yeah.
Huh?
I've got squished ones as well.
Yeah, mine changed a lot more than yours.
Okay. So anyways,
Standard though, isn't it?
actually, we should have made a copy. So let me undo, and then I'll make a copy of this. And let's do it again. So I'll select that. Randomizer, and then again it was 50. I think that was sort of okay. Uniform scale, 50. The opacity, then we said minus 25 to 25, and then 20, 20 minus. Okay. Yeah, I think that's not a very big change. I think maybe that let's. So I'm gonna try.
Yeah, replicate. Zero to
I'm gonna try again.
different shaping code.
So I think I need more movement, or maybe I forgot this one. Yeah, 150 uniform scale, opacity 50, and I think I'm gonna try more here. I'll try 30 minus 30, so 30, and then minus 20 to 20, and I will rotate them. All right, I think that's more interesting. All right, I could select these now. I don't know what do you think, but I can have fun with that for a while. So what I'll do now is I'm going to start consolidating this. So Control N to make a new file. All right. Looks good. Size is A3. Landscape is the orientation. I say create. And then I'm just simply going to, right, so that's the new file. I'll make a rectangle to be the background. And I'm just going to select the color. So I'll in this case, I'll select a yellow. I'll take this. I'll go back to my other document. Oops. It's way too big. There you go. Actually, I think that background doesn't really work. Well, you know men are not particularly strong with colors. So, yeah.
I move this at once. I just want to stick it on there. I've selected it, but I can't move it.
You can move it.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll just, you were probably clicking outside outside the object.
cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, quite frankly, I don't like that. I think that background isn't really working, but I don't know, maybe black. Yeah, maybe that's better.
Is it
Anyways,
orange?
orange.
There's a yellow
Take
that's
that.
slightly muted at the top.
I'll take that. Yeah, is
Next to the
that
bright
maybe
one?
this one? Maybe this one?
Yeah, no, the next one. Third one along from the end.
This one.
Yeah, not too much. There you go, nice.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. You know, I could bring the background. Not really, not now. I will have to arrange it in the other document.
You need
Anyway.
to change layers. Maybe make some layers.
Yes, yeah. So you know you could print now. In fact, I think from the trials I was doing, I made some images. So let me see. Browse. There you go. You could make some images or whatever. How about you try to...
How did you change the background?
The background... Oh. Yeah. So I just made a rectangle. So you just obviously I made a new document and I pasted the geometry there,
Yeah.
and then all I did was just coming here and making a rectangle.
Oh, I see.
So it will automatically snap to the document. So I just made, and then it obviously it's on top of everything.
How did you make
I could
this?
play with layers if I wanted, but let's not bother about that. If you just right click, then you go to arrange, and then you click on send to back.
Oh, right, yeah. And then you can just color it.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I mean, I could have sat down and sketched something like this and then tried to craft it. But it's a different way to arrange to a design, to an artwork. So how about you try to do something with your initials, for example, or with something else that you want? There are more, it'd be good, like for instance, you know, I applied something else here in between, so the circles were not circles anymore.
Did you want to do thing? Module 5?
If you wanted to do something with text, so let's say I'm going to write something here. Same thing, Digital Discovery Week. Right, so I'll make it quite big. Before you can actually apply a good number of transformations to it, let me select a different, I'll select that font. Before you can actually apply transformations to it, you need to turn it into non-editable text, so kind of like turn it into a graphic, because at the moment it's not really a graphic, it's text. That makes sense. So the first thing you have to do is right click and then click on create outlines. And so that's now, if you see, well, I mean, it's hard to see, but that's non-editable text anymore. It's a graphic with the shape of the text. And it's grouped. To play with it more, you need to ungroup it, because at the moment it's all grouped together, so you need to right click again and then select ungroup. And now each of these is going to be on its own. So let's do the same thing. Yeah. Now, a different way to, for instance, to colorize them is there should be another script called Berry Hues. So you just click on that. And, this one requires that the document is prepared for making files or images for screens, not for print. And the default in Illustrator is to make files for print. So first of all, you need to come to File and then Document Color Mode and change that from CMYK, which is when you want to create graphics for print. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and sure what that is. Anyways, you change like if you were going to do files for screen. And then let's try again. Scripts, Berry Hues. And then it gives me different options. I can either apply colors to it automatically. I can have different opacity. Or I can just change the color of the stroke. Not the fill, not the inside of the shape, but just the outline. So in this case, I'm just going to change the fill colors. So it asked me to put number between 1 and 100. I'm just going to select 50. And then it applies colors automatically. I could then apply another script called size by luminance. And that one didn't work. But anyways, you could just try the randomizer or the random size and then change the color.
What did you do for hues again? I've forgotten.
I just selected the items and then went to Berry Hues.
And what did you type?
And then here I typed in something. Let's try something different, like 75.
Okay.
That's it.
Oh. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few more. Like if I took one of these, really go big. There is something called what is it called? It's called Fluorify. let me try something like 25, not that much. Then it works better with symmetric shapes. It kind of like starts to make this, you know, those kind of forms. Right. Anyways, so you get something. Let me see if I still have the US logo here. Yeah, I do. Let me take, which is the original one. I think this is the original. Let me make a copy of this. And with objects that have points. So in each of these circles, there's 5 points. There's one in the center. We don't see them, but basically, this. You see, there's 4 points there, and then there's 1 point in the center. There is one. I'll select half. There is this script that we didn't use at first, which is called all points. And what it does, it traces a straight line from all the points in a closed path. So, you know, I could here instead come and get rid of that. And then, oops.
I like the little yellow circle.
Or maybe just some of them, and then have like, you know, like a little bit diamondy kind of appearance. Right? And then obviously I can keep playing with that. Maybe I can fill the squares. To get to the squares?
Yes.
So you select the items so long they have points in them, and then you apply the all points script.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool, actually. That's pretty cool. Shall we let me see?
Can we just use these scripts? Can we just use these
Yes,
scripts?
yes. Now there are some scripts which are, proprietary that you have to buy.
Yeah.
But not these.
Okay.
These are free for you to use.
Can you
So
get different ones?
Yes, and you can make your own. Obviously, that implies all kinds of, that's a
But
different
can you
thing.
download scripts like this that you can plug in and
What do you mean?
so you can go to like
Oh, yes.
Illustrator forum or something?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's tons of them.
Did you
There's
write
tons of
these
them.
yourself, or did you get them online?
No. Those are scripts I've been collecting. As I said, I've been interested in this for a while, so I've been collecting them over time. I guess most of them you will be able to find them. Some of them you need to adapt when Illustrator changes from one version to another. So sometimes that's relatively easy because you can easily find what is it the thing that you need to change. But to write them, I haven't written myself a script yet. And yeah, I mean, so obviously it's not like you will become a designer just because you can use a script. But you know, it allows you to, you know, do things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. So absolutely, yeah, feel free. If you just go to, I can't remember the name of the website. But anyways, if you just Google anything like JavaScript or Adobe scripts, Illustrator scripts, you will find probably much more than that.
There's probably quite a lot on GitHub.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. There is a good number of them. Yeah. There is a good number of them. If you wanted, you know, to play with this a bit more, let me see. Because this is 2D, and as I said, there's all kinds of tools. So something like processing is a special tool for this kind of work, for generative design, for computational design. But to use processing, you need to code. You need to type in code. But it's far more powerful. I mean, since it allows you to do much more. If you want to play, for instance, with let's see what's let's see if it works. This is kind of like an experiment from Autodesk, but it's in 3D, and it allows you to make these pots, vases, and so you know you basically just select one of these. It's obviously it's very restrictive, but again it's you know. Let's see. It automatically creates that geometry in 3D, and then you can change this, right? So, for instance, at the moment it has no twist, but if I start applying a twist to it, and then you know that's starting to look more like a vase, so I can make it more pronounced, right? And then I can apply. Right. Right. I'm not sure about that. Right. So again, it's a very simple tool, but it's just this idea of using using an algorithm to create a shape as opposed to doing it yourself.
What's it called, sorry?
It's called Autodesk Shapeshifter. So once again, if you have a chance later on, please send me whatever you did. Doesn't need to be the coolest art piece. Yes. Yeah, if you want, I mean, I'm assuming you know how to, you know, like if you wanted to keep this as an image, then we just come to export and then export as. And then you just type in a name, so I already have a quick, just take 10, and then you select the kind of file you want to make, so I'll just make a JPEG. RGB because I want it, for the screen, and then resolution, and then that's it.